Welcome back to Rich in Colors. Today I will guide you through a lesson that I use for my introduction to art class. Throughout this lesson, I focus on the element of value, but I also infuse it with some figure drawing basics as well as adding an imaginative component inspired by surrealism. Before this lesson, students have practiced value skills, the fundamentals of drawing the figure, as well as taking a look at surrealism. So if you don't know how to draw the figure and you want to get an idea, I have some other videos that break down the figure into its basic proportions. From there, students are asked to create a surreal landscape inspired by an image from our wooden mannequin sets. The students pose their mannequin into an interesting and dynamic active pose. From there, they imagine this figure in a surreal landscape where they add their own imagery to complement the pose. The drawing should then be completed by creating a range of values with their pencil. So for me, my figure is in a pose where he is creating a painting that comes to life and creates an alternate universe. Now let's take a look at how I got to my drawing. So I took this photograph of the mannequin holding up his brush, and I'm going to draw the mannequin on the left side, have the canvas kind of starting in the center, and then I'll start to create this more imaginative world that comes out of the canvas. So I'm going to place him in the center. When you place your artist or your mannequin in your picture, you want to be able to see the whole image of the mannequin. So I'm going to also sketch it out and get a placement figured out first. And then I'm going to break it up into sections, just the way that we practice drawing the figure in our sketchbook. So remember to pay attention to your shoulder width and your hip width so that one isn't extremely larger than the other. Remember that when we think about our shoulder width, we are thinking about two heads on the side. Each of these little joints are a great way to split up drawing your character, especially as we're going to start to move back and forth into space. That's why I like to use photographs, because I can even zoom in and really focus on how much do I see of each of these things. And we're breaking down complicated sections into shapes to make it a little bit easier before we really start to develop characters with more detail. This is where I start to use comparison. So how much higher is one knee from the other? How much higher is one elbow from the other? What aligns with what? So ask yourself all of those questions. What's higher? What's lower? What lines up? And that should help you with your drawing. So right now this knee is up higher because it's further back, whereas this knee is a little bit lower because it's coming forward. Remember, we can also use negative spaces to help us draw something. So I'm seeing that this is a little bit, these need to be a little bit closer together here. So I am going to add an easel off to the right side right here that my character is going to be painting. And then I'm going to use that to show it kind of going out into another world. So basically, whatever other images you are going to add to your drawing, you want to be looking at pictures, okay? Using reference photos that we talked about in class. Using them and also doing all of the things that we do when we add images. we try to get a size down. So I want this easel to be placed on the side here. So I'm going to do a very, very light sketch. Then I'm going to do size comparison, big shapes to small shapes and details. So I'm going to start out with my big shapes of my canvas, my big shapes of my easel, and go ahead and bring in some details. So for my idea, I have my figure is an artist, and they are basically painting and they're creating this like whole alternate universe that is gonna pop off of here, have some like rays of light that connect them. I'll do different values for the different planets. So some will be light, some will be dark. I'll use the photograph to reference the shadows for my figure. And everything else I'm going to start to make up, but I'm going to shade everything. Everything's going to have a light and dark to it. You can either find out those values from using your photo reference, or you start to think about what works for your idea. For me, it's going to have lots of light around this alternate universe that pops up out of here, and there'll be some darker shadows as we get over behind the background to this side. So think about your drawing, think about your idea, and think about what works best for the way that you add your values. Things about the values in your image. A lot of times we are going to see heavier values in overlapped areas like this, and we are also going to end up, that's where we'll start to see some shadows. You'll also want to figure out where the light's coming from. So for my image, the light's coming from above and the right side, so that's going to create some highlights at the top of his head, his shoulder here, you know, over on this right side, but it's going to be different for everybody. So look at your photo reference and really start to see where the overlap's happening, what casts a shadow, and that's how you figure out the values on your figure. When you're doing any kind of value drawing, you're going to eventually want to get a piece of paper to put under your hand as you do your values. This way you can keep yourself from smearing your drawing all over the piece of paper.